Hi, this is Red Story. Thanks for stopping by. Subscribe, leave comments if you enjoyed. My friends, we really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and let's dive into a new video.
A story of marriage and distance. Mark sat at the kitchen table, watching the sunlight stream through the window. The house was quiet, a stark contrast to the usual chaos of children running around and the sounds of daily life. He sipped his coffee, glancing at the clock. His wife, Emily, was at work again, leaving him alone to think. They had been married for 5 years. Their 2 children, Lily and Noah, were still so young, and Emily had always been a hands-on mother. From the day their first child was born, she had thrown herself into motherhood, spending sleepless nights tending to the babies while Mark worked long hours to support the family. But things had changed over the last year. Emily had started to grow restless, complaining that life had become monotonous. "I just feel like I'm losing myself," she would often say, her voice tired. "I love the kids, but I miss being me, Mark. I miss my career. I spent years studying for a job in my field, and now there's an opportunity. It's everything I've wanted." Mark had listened to her countless times, nodding in understanding. He knew how much her career meant to her. After all, Emily had always dreamed of working in design, and a job offer had come her way that aligned perfectly with her passion. One evening, while the children were already in bed, Emily had sat him down at the table. "Mark, I have to talk to you about something important." He'd looked up from his phone, sensing the seriousness in her tone. "What's going on?" "I got a job offer," she said, her voice trembling with excitement and nervousness. "It's with a company I've always dreamed of working for. They're offering me a position that fits exactly with what I studied, but it's full-time. I'll need help with the kids." Mark leaned back in his chair, the news sinking in. "You really want to do this, don't you?" She nodded eagerly. "I do. I miss working. I miss feeling like I'm more than just a mom. This job, it's a dream come true." Mark sighed, weighing the options. "I understand, but who's going to take care of Lily and Noah? You know I work late, and they need someone here." "I've been thinking about that too. We could hire a nanny, someone experienced. I found a woman from the Philippines. She comes highly recommended. She can live with us and help with the kids. What do you think?" Mark was hesitant. The idea of a stranger living in their home didn't sit well with him, but he saw how much this meant to Emily. "All right," he finally said. "Let's give it a try. I want you to be happy, Emily." And so they hired a nanny, Maria, who moved into the guest room and quickly became an integral part of the household. Emily was thriving at her new job, glowing with excitement every day she came home. She would tell Mark about her projects, her colleagues, and how alive she felt working again. Then came the business trips. The first time her boss asked her to travel to another city for negotiations, Emily had been thrilled. "It's just for a couple of days," she told Mark. "I'll be back before you know it." Mark had trusted her completely and didn't think much of it. But the trips became more frequent. Another trip. He'd ask, only to receive the same response. "It's just work, Mark. You know how it is." But then something began to change between them. Emily seemed distant when she was home, distracted. Their conversations, once easy and full of laughter, became short and superficial. And in bed, the intimacy they once shared had started to fade. One evening after another trip, Mark decided to confront her. He couldn't ignore the growing distance between them any longer. "Emily, we need to talk," he said one night, sitting on the couch as she walked into the living room. She looked at him with concern. "What's wrong?" "It's us," he began. "I feel like we're drifting apart. You're always away, and when you're here, it's like you're not really with me. I know you love your job, but are we okay?" Emily's eyes darted away, and Mark felt a knot tighten in his stomach. He hadn't expected that look. "We're fine, Mark," she said softly, but her voice lacked conviction. "I don't believe you," he said, his tone growing firmer. "You changed. We changed. I feel like you're keeping something from me." She sat down across from him, her hands trembling. "It's not that simple." "Then make it simple, Emily. What's going on? Is there someone else?" There was a long pause. The silence between them was deafening. "Mark," her voice cracked. "I never wanted this to happen." Mark felt a surge of panic. "What are you talking about?" Emily looked down, her eyes filling with tears. I think I'm in love with someone else." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. He stared at her in disbelief, his mind racing. "What do you mean, someone else? You're saying you love another man?" She nodded, her tears spilling over. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it just did. We worked closely together on projects. And did something happen between you two? Mark asked, his voice trembling with both fear and anger. Did you? Did you sleep with him? Emily shook her head, her face filled with guilt. No, Mark, nothing physical happened. But emotionally, I'm not here anymore. Mark stood up, running his hands through his hair, trying to process everything. His heart was pounding. You're telling me you love another man, but you expect me to believe nothing happened between you two. Mark, I swear, nothing happened physically, Emily pleaded. I didn't cross that line, but I can't deny my feelings for him. Mark paced the room, his thoughts spiraling. What about us? What about Lily and Noah? We have a family, Emily. I know, she whispered, her voice breaking. I love our kids more than anything, but I don't know if I can be what you need anymore. Mark stared at her, his heart breaking. So what now? He asked bitterly. You want a divorce. Emily wiped her eyes, her face etched with pain. I don't know what I want, but I know things can't stay like this. Mark felt like the ground was crumbling beneath him. He couldn't believe this was happening, that the woman he had loved and built a life with was standing in front of them, telling him she loved another man. For the next few days, they tried to navigate the fallout, but every conversation ended in more tears, more anger, and more confusion. Mark couldn't look at her without feeling a deep sense of betrayal. One night, as they sat at the dining table after the children were asleep, Mark broke the silence. I think we need to separate. Emily looked at him, her eyes wide with shock. Mark, are you sure? He nodded, the weight of the decision heavy on his chest. We can't keep living like this. I don't want to be in a marriage where I'm not loved. Emily didn't argue. She simply nodded, her face pale. And so they made the painful decision to divorce. Their home, once filled with love and laughter, became a place of quiet resignation. The children, too young to fully understand, sensed the tension between their parents. As Mark packed his bags, he thought about everything that had led them to this point. The late nights, the business trips, the secrets. He knew he'd never fully understand what had gone wrong, but he couldn't live with the uncertainty any longer. In the end, they agreed to co-parent their children, trying to make the process as painless as possible for Lily and Noah. But the damage had been done. The family that once seemed so solid had been torn apart by a truth that neither of them could ignore. Mark drove away from the home they had built together, tears blurring his vision, knowing that life would never be the same again. Comment section. User 1. Man, that was heartbreaking. I can't imagine the pain of watching someone you love drift away. User 2. I think Mark did the right thing by separating. When love is gone, it's hard to keep up the facade. User 3 asterisk. Emily may not have crossed the physical line, but emotional infidelity can hurt just as much, if not more. User 4. I feel for the kids. Divorce is never easy, especially when they're caught in the middle. And to good morning, and in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.